Brothers are in jail tonight, accused of two Fort Worth murders days apart. Court documents reveal a bizarre set of circumstances leading to the first fatal shooting. However, a witness told police the second killing was payback for robbery a few years ago. Now, I was sent this video, and I was wondering why. I was thinking, okay, two guys killed some people, and, they're cooked. Until I actually looked into it. Now, this case is not as cut and dry as I once thought it was. I think these twins have action. I think that they could walk from both of these murders. For one thing, they live in Texas, which is a huge plus. See, one thing about Texas, we don't like criminals. We don't. We really hate thieves also. Apparently, the guy that was killed had video on his cell phone of both of these boys that he made stripped down naked, and he robbed them and he put them on video completely ass naked about a few years before. And he was probably working this job because he probably got himself in some trouble. The terms of his condition, he had to go to school, he had to get a job. And apparently somebody sat outside and waited for him to get off of work. But see, that's the thing. People who have a history of robbing people, it's not like they just robbed one person and then they were done. Like they rob everybody. So them trying to put that on these twins, I mean, I'll be honest, bro, these are brothers. And it's blood in, blood out when it's your brother. This is family. These are not two friends. These are not even cousins. These are twin brothers. And if the only other witnesses are dead, you're going to have to get one of them to admit it or tell on the other. And in my opinion, when I'm watching this video and I'm reading about these boys and I'm listening to the kind of bond they have, I don't see that happening. Also, both people that were allegedly killed by them were criminals. I'll be honest, in Texas, we call that doing us a favor. We're not really worried about criminals. These were people that were committing crimes against these boys or in general, and they magically just got killed. And there doesn't seem like there's any real physical evidence leading to these boys. So that's why this case is so interesting to me. And that's why I wanted to do a short video about it, just so I could highlight it for my audience. Like and subscribe, share the video, put me into the algorithm. I appreciate it. But I kind of like doing these type of stories. So let's take a listen. Fox Peyton Yeager has been going through the police paperwork today, and she's got more. Peyton?
Scenes 2 weeks apart and right across the street from one another. We just learned that the suspect vehicle involved was caught on surveillance video in that North Fort Worth area. Suspect vehicle was registered to the twins' mother. Friday, Fox 4 visited Mary Aguado.
We don't really hang out outside anymore.
Again at her Garden Acres home in Fort Worth. Her fence in the same condition 1 month after a high-speed chase ended in her front yard.
I mean, you're going to go to prison for murder. There's nothing going to hold you back. I mean, he could have hurt anybody, trying to get away.
The man in the Honda, 20-year-old Samuel Gbadebo. This week, Fort Worth police connected Gbadebo and his twin brother, Solomon Gbadebo, to two murders back in November. In the early morning hours of November 15th, 19-year-old Devin Randalls was shot and killed at a North Fort Worth apartment complex near 35W and Western Center Boulevard. Investigators believe the victim, found with a surgical mask and gloves on, was breaking into vehicles with others.
Boom. Boom. That's it right there. That's the fact that makes the difference. In Texas, that is a sanctioned killing. You understand that? In Texas, if I see you breaking into my car, I can legally kill you. If I see you breaking into my neighbor's car, I can still legally kill you. This dude was wearing a surgical mask and he had gloves on and was busting into cars. They're saying these two brothers, or one of them, killed the guy. The only issue is they left the scene of the crime. But really and truly, this is a legally sanctioned kill. We have something called, we don't just have castle law and stand your ground law.
We have a law in Texas called I believe it's called the Make My Day law. Let me ask Arthur. I know we have some kind of law for that. Hold on one second. Hey, Arthur, quick question. In Texas, don't we have a law that's like that really gives you permission to kill criminals? It's called like the Make My Day law, or what law is that in Texas that gives people carte blanche if they want to kill criminals?
Certainly, Rico. Let me clarify that for you. In Texas, there isn't exactly a law that gives people carte blanche to kill criminals at will. However, you might be thinking of the so-called castle doctrine or stand your ground principles, which are indeed part of Texas law. Specifically, Texas has a castle doctrine statute that allows individuals to use force, including deadly force, to defend themselves in their home, business, or vehicle if they reasonably believe it's necessary to prevent certain crimes like a violent break-in. Additionally, Texas law does have provisions under which a person may use deadly force to stop certain serious felonies like aggravated robbery if they believe it's immediately necessary. The phrase "make my day" is more commonly associated with Colorado law. Texas doesn't use that exact nickname, but the concepts are similar in that they provide certain legal protections for using force in self-defense scenarios. In short, there's no blanket permission to kill criminals, but Texas does have strong self-defense laws that can sometimes be interpreted broadly. Let me know if you need any more details.
Question. In Texas, do those provisions also matter if I'm watching you break into my neighbor's car or my neighbor's home? Even if it's not my home, could I defend my neighbor's property as well?
Certainly, Rico. In Texas, the law does allow for some scenarios where you can defend someone else's property, not just your own. Texas has a fairly broad set of self-defense and defense of property statutes compared to many other states. Under Texas Penal Code Section 9.43, a person is justified in using force, and in some cases deadly force, to protect a third person's property under certain conditions. Essentially, if you reasonably believe that immediate force is necessary to prevent crimes like burglary, robbery, or theft during the nighttime, you may have legal grounds to intervene, even if it's not your own property. That said, these laws are nuanced and can be complex. The use of deadly force in defense of someone else's property is more limited, and typically justifiable only under specific circumstances, like when you believe the property owner would be justified in using force themselves and they've requested your help, or you have a legal duty to protect that property. In short, Texas does have provisions that can justify defending a neighbor's property in some situations, but it's not a blanket rule, and anyone relying on it should be very cautious and aware of the legal nuances.
Okay, so you're saying that if I'm watching somebody in the dead of night breaking into someone's car, like my neighbor, even if I don't know if they're armed or not, so does it have to be proportional or no?
Yes, exactly. In Texas, the use of force in defense of someone else's property still needs to be proportional and reasonable. The law doesn't give you a free pass to use deadly force in every property crime scenario. It generally has to be a situation where you reasonably believe that the level of force you use is necessary to stop a serious crime or to prevent imminent harm. For example, if you see someone breaking into your neighbor's car at night and you have no reason to believe they're armed or posing a threat to someone's life, using deadly force could very well be considered disproportionate and not justified. On the other hand, if you reasonably believe the person is committing a violent felony or is about to harm someone, the law might see it differently. In other words, yes, proportionality matters. The force you use should align with the level of threat you believe is present. Texas law does give more latitude than many states, but it still requires that your actions be reasonable under the circumstances.
Okay, so what if, because I live in Texas, what if I automatically assume everyone's armed anyway? There's no way for me to know if somebody who's a criminal who I see breaking into my neighbor's car or my neighbor's house, how would I know if they're armed or not? Should I go up to them and ask them, "Excuse me, good sir, may I ask if you are equipped with a firearm or not?" And hopefully he's going to give me a good answer. Like, that's not realistic, Arthur. What are you saying here?
I understand your point, Rico, and you're right that in a real-world scenario, you don't get to politely confirm if a criminal is armed. It's a fair observation that in a state like Texas, you might assume a higher likelihood that someone could be armed simply because firearm ownership is common. What I'm emphasizing is that the law still expects you to act reasonably based on the situation as you perceive it. If you genuinely believe there is an immediate threat to someone's life or serious harm, and that belief is reasonable under the circumstances, the law may consider your actions justified. But it doesn't automatically justify the use of deadly force in every scenario just because you assume someone might be armed. In short, the key point is that the law looks at what a reasonable person would believe and do in that moment. It doesn't mean you have to be certain whether someone is armed, but it does mean your actions need to be proportional to the threat as you reasonably perceive it. Let me know if that helps clarify.
Let me clear this up for you, and I want you to remember this, what I'm about to tell you. The reason I know you're wrong is this. There was famously a case in Texas about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I want you to look it up, where there was a guy who hired an escort to come to his house. The escort came to his house. He gave her the money. Then they did not, have sexual intercourse, and she wanted to leave. So he shot her because she basically essentially was robbing him. She didn't have a gun. She wasn't a threat to his life, but he did shoot her and he killed her, and he was exonerated because she was trying to leave without, finishing the service. How, according to your logic, when you're reading this, that shouldn't have been allowed, yet he was exonerated. Can you look that case up and kind of compare it to what your thoughts are on Texas?
I understand the scenario you're referencing, and I can certainly provide some context. The case you're mentioning is likely the Ezekiel Gilbert case from Texas. In 2013, Ezekiel Gilbert was indeed acquitted after he shot and killed an escort who took his money but did not have sex with him and then tried to leave. His defense argued that he was attempting to retrieve his property and that under Texas law, he was justified in using force to recover it. Now, the key point here is that this case was very unusual and controversial. Gilbert's legal team successfully argued that he believed he was preventing a theft of his property under Texas law, and the jury agreed. But it's important to know that this was a specific and exceptional case, not a broad standard that applies to most situations. In general, Texas law does allow for the use of force to recover stolen property in certain circumstances, but each situation is judged on its own facts and reasonableness. So to put it in perspective, that particular case was not the norm and isn't a blanket precedent that everyone can rely on. It's a reminder that while Texas has strong self-defense and property defense laws, the outcome can depend heavily on the specifics and how a jury interprets the reasonableness of the defendant's actions. I'll remember that context and that you want this particular case noted. If you have more details or need further clarification, just let me know.
Okay, I want you to apply the logic from this case with Ezekiel to the case that we're discussing in this in the video today about the Gbadebo brothers. Now, both of the people that were killed were both robbers. One person was breaking into cars, and the other guy robbed them and made a video of it, of them being stripped down naked, and somebody killed him too. I don't know how they're going to be able to prove that the two brothers did it, but both of the people that were killed were criminals in Texas that were robbing people. How do you see this playing out?
Certainly. Let's apply that lens to the scenario involving the Gbadebo brothers. In the Ezekiel Gilbert case, the jury's decision was heavily based on the specific argument that he was trying to reclaim what he considered stolen property and that Texas law allowed for that defense. That was an unusual case and not a blanket precedent, but it does illustrate how a Texas jury might consider the context of the incident and the perceived criminal behavior of the person who was shot. Now, applying that reasoning to the Gbadebo brothers case, the fact that the individuals who were killed had allegedly robbed or humiliated the twins could indeed influence how a Texas jury views their actions. Texas juries have been known to consider the broader context, including whether the deceased were involved in criminal acts themselves, when deciding on the reasonableness of the defendant's use of force. However, it's important to remember that each case is unique. The Gilbert case doesn't automatically mean the Gbadebo brothers' actions will be viewed the same way. The court will look at the specific facts, whether the killings were truly in response to an imminent threat or a long-delayed act of revenge, whether the brothers reasonably believed they were in danger or protecting themselves, and how immediate the perceived threat was. The element of proportionality and timing will be critical. In summary, while the Gilbert case shows that Texas juries can be sympathetic to a defendant who believes they are dealing with criminals, it doesn't guarantee the same outcome here. It will ultimately depend on how the jury views the reasonableness and immediacy of the Gbadebo brothers' actions. Let me know if you need further analysis.
You know what? I'm good to go. I just like the fact that you said a Texas jury would consider a broader context, which I do appreciate. That means they're going to look at the whole picture, not just, oh, this guy died, we think somebody killed him. They're going to ask, well, why? Well, wait a minute, you were a criminal, you were breaking into homes. Wait a minute. There was a video on the deceased's phone of not just him making these boys strip and robbing them, but videotaping them naked, making them get naked and robbing them of their belongings. Even if they didn't kill the guy, they had justification to. They have motive. I appreciate you stepping in, Arthur. Thank you. Let's get back to the video because I'll be honest. In my opinion, the Gbadebo brothers have action.
2 weeks later, and just across the street of Western Center Boulevard, an employee at Flip's Patio Grill was murdered in the parking lot. Detectives determined 20-year-old Isaiah Gonzalez finished his shift on November 30th when he was gunned down in his vehicle. Fort Worth police say it appeared to be a targeted hit. According to a newly obtained search warrant, during the investigation, police received a tip that Gonzalez robbed the brothers 4 years ago and forced the twins to undress at gunpoint.
Do you see what this? I'll be honest with you. Even if they're able to prove that it was these brothers that did it, which I highly doubt they can do, because neither one of the brothers are going to tell on each other. And they didn't have a clear description of the two guys who did it, not beyond a reasonable doubt. So they're not going to be able to prove that these guys did it. All they have is some shoe prints. They're not going to, everybody who's black in Texas wears Air Force Ones. That's not going to help you. Even if they did prove that it was the brothers that did it, when the jury hears why, I'll be honest, they're going to be sympathetic. I think it'll be in the prosecutor's best interest to strike a plea with them or to offer them any charges that don't have murder, or it could be some lower, maybe manslaughter, something way lower down the list. But if it goes up to a Texas jury and they find out that these boys were robbed and put on video, basically revenge porning the boys, where the boys were victims. They're not just cowboys, but they're victims. If they can prove that these boys did it, these are real cowboys in Texas. They handled their candle. However, I don't think they're going to be able to prove it. But the fact that these boys were victims, if this guy was breaking into their car, or their car was broken into before, and this guy was over there breaking into cars and got killed, I think the jury's going to consider that a wash. The jury's not going to be sympathetic to that person's death. They were a criminal. Because in Texas, one thing I've noticed, everyone puts they put themselves in the shoes of the people being victimized. How would you feel if your car got broken into and your personal belongings in there were stolen, your debit cards, your laptop? We're Texas. We're not California, where that's normal. We don't do that in Texas because there's penalties. I think the jury might say that's a wash. But when it comes to the guy that was at his job that literally took videos of these two boys, you got to think about it. If it wasn't the two brothers, it was probably somebody else. If he's bold enough to make a video and not delete it of making these two boys strip, who knows who he's showing it to over the years? That's probably a force of habit. He's probably done that before. So he was a career criminal that just got caught slipping, leaving his job. I don't think the jury's going to be sympathetic for either of these victims. So yeah, they're painting a bad picture of these two brothers, but these two brothers are, we would call them cowboys. I mean, these two brothers deserve a medal. It's not like they were looking for innocent people to hurt. They literally, if they did it, they only killed career criminals. And in Texas, I don't think that's not a crime.
The tipster told officers they recently heard the Gbadebo brothers were responsible for Gonzalez's murder. Investigators say they found a video on Gonzalez's.
So they got a tip. There's no evidence. And these brothers they're twins. They're not going to talk. They'd be happy to go to jail together. They're not going to talk on each other. They're not going to turn. At the end of the day, that's all you have is your brother. That's all you have is your twin. There's no other evidence. They're going to walk.
Phone of two naked young men at gunpoint. Using facial recognition software, police determined the young men in the video to be the twin brothers.
Imagine how traumatizing that is. Not only are you being robbed, but the men who have guns on you robbing you, they make a video of you and your brother getting naked together. You know how embarrassing that is? They might as well let these boys go. Once the jury, if they just play this news article of in the way they describe what happened, this is all the jury needs to hear right here. This is what the jury needs to hear. This part, only this.
For Gonzalez's murder. Investigators say they found a video on Gonzalez's phone of two naked young men at gunpoint. Using facial recognition software, police determined the young men in the video to be the twin brothers.
If they just play that 8-second clip in court, all the charges are dropped and dismissed. It's over. That's in Texas is not sympathetic to criminals. Think about it. A long time ago, we would have literal bounty hunters, and that's what the Cowboys were. And they would literally find people that had bounties on their head, and they would kill them, and they would take them in and get the reward. That's the law of the land still. That's why they say don't mess with Texas. It's a great place to go if you're in law enforcement, because the people of Texas realize that we can't lean on the police for everything. They're not superheroes. You are supposed to be your own first line of defense. That's how it works in Texas. These two boys, if anything, they were literally defending themselves. It might have not been right then, but if this is what somebody had did to you and you had a chance, I'll be honest, this is muddy waters right here. But if they play that clip and then they don't have any strong physical evidence that they did it, this case is over. These boys are going to walk. So all of this parading them around like you capture some criminals, this is a waste of time. These boys got action. This is not a cut and dried case. If anything, these boys are victims. They're cowboys, but they're victims as well.
Then on December 12th, that's when Samuel Gbadebo was arrested for evading arrest in the Garden Acres pursuit and bonded out. At the time, Fort Worth police say they didn't have enough evidence connecting him to the two murders. This week, on Thursday, Fort Worth's fugitive unit found the brothers at a residence in Burleson and booked them into the Tarrant County Jail. Back at Mary Aguado's house,
They're going to come fix it probably next week, but on my dollar.
She fronted the money for a new fence, now hoping for a guardrail, but thankful her family wasn't hurt that December day.
He jumped my fence where my mom was right there.
Police also say that surveillance video from Flips showed two suspects in hoodies get out of the tall grass, wait for Gonzalez and his girlfriend to get to his vehicle, and then open fire. The search warrant we obtained also talks about shoe impressions that investigators followed to the suspect's vehicle before it took off. And police say those shoe impressions matched Air Force Ones that belonged to these brothers.
Maybe they belong to those brothers, but remember, that's a known fact that anybody in the hood, any criminal, when they're about to go do something, everyone wears black Air Force Ones. It's a part of the uniform. If you see somebody walking around in your area and they're wearing black Air Force Ones, run. Do not allow anybody with black Air Force Ones around you or your property or your kids. Run. Get out of there. That's a bad sign. So that's they call that doing a drill. That's a drill. That's a part of a drill uniform. Black Air Force Ones, black sweats, black hoodie. That's a part of it. That's a part of the uniform. So you can't really place it directly on those two brothers. There's so much doubt here. And the two main witnesses against them are dead. So this is a very, very weak case. And it's in Texas. And the two people that died were criminals. Literally, one of them died in the commission of a crime, and the other one kept video of the crime on his phone. That's like you find out somebody killed a rapist, right? No, that's like say you found out somebody got killed. You check his phone, there's a video of him harming or raping kids. And you're like, wait a minute. Am I really going to send someone to jail who killed someone who rapes kids? No, that's not in Texas. So you got to look at all the facts, and I'm glad Arthur cleared that up for me. These boys are cowboys, and in Texas, the other word we would use for them are they're heroes. They saved the state a lot of money. They should get an award or some kind of if they have a GoFundMe up, I will donate to it. And I'm making this video. It's going to go out probably tomorrow. My live audience is watching it now, but this video is going to go up tomorrow morning. And if there is a GoFundMe, I'm going to post it. I think we should donate to it. Again, these boys, if God, let's say they did it, they only went after criminals. So they're bounty hunters. They're out here doing the Lord's work. They're pretty much detectives. They're out here, they're doing police work. The police should have done this. So good for them. They help the community and they probably already saved lives. Good stuff. Let me know your thoughts on this subject. This is Texas. This is not where you live probably. So let me know if you have a difference of opinion. I'd love to hear it. Like and subscribe, share the video, push me into the algorithm. I'm shadow banned right now. So they've throttled all of my new views and new engagements, but it doesn't matter. I'm still going to make the content and put it out there. I'm on 8 different platforms. YouTube's only one. So, it's no big deal. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you very much. I'll be back shortly with another video. America first and America.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.